Alright, so we're back in our article, and we're going to learn how to insert an image using the JCE Insert and Edit Image icon. Let's say we wanted to put an image just before this line of text here. Go ahead, we'll put our cursor at the beginning of the line and click on the Insert Edit Image icon. This brings up the Image Manager for JCE, which is very different from the one that comes with Joomla out of the box. In our session on global configuration, we talked about where images should be stored that would be available for your articles. And we said that that should be in the images/stories folder, and indeed that's where JCE is now looking. Root is actually images/stories, and in this particular case we have three subfolders: food, fruit, and a folder called January, which I created earlier. So we have a number of options here with this image manager. I can create a new folder by clicking on that icon, giving it a name. I usually make sure the names of my folders are one word, or I use underscore to keep them all together. I'll go ahead and click on that, and now I'm in the beginner class folder and there are no files. From here I can upload a file. This brings up this dialog box, and I can add files here. In this case I'm going to add a picture of one of my radio controlled airplanes inverted about 4 inches off the ground. Now I can add multiple files here. I can also rename files right in here before it's even uploaded. Click the upload button, and once that check mark turns to green, I know that it's done. Close the box, and once I click on that picture, now I have the full path to the picture inserted in the URL for me. I have alternate text that I can add, and let me encourage you, you should always add alt text to your images. So I'm just going to add spaces here so the text makes sense. I can change my dimensions here, but let me encourage you that you probably ought to never do this. You should have images ready for your website before you upload them. That means they shouldn't be too big. I see websites all the time where the site loads quickly, but the images take forever. I'm sure you've seen that too. What's going on there is that somebody uploaded a full-size picture, say 1,000 pixels wide, and then just used a WYSIWYG editor to shrink it down to a few hundred pixels. But the problem is the file size is still huge. So we want to make sure that you edit your images before you upload them to your website. I can do a number of things here. I can set the alignment to top, middle, bottom, left, or right. I'm going to set it to right, and you'll see in the preview it gives me a little idea of what that's going to look like. I'm going to give it margins of about 10 pixels. When I enter 10 and press Tab, Joomla fills those in for me with equal values. If I want to change those values to something that's not equal, I can then uncheck that and put the values in that I want. I can add a border to this image. I like a nice 1 pixel solid black border. I can make that any color I want. And now I'm ready to insert. There are some other options up here as well, where I can enable a rollover so that when somebody rolls their mouse over the image, something else happens. Of course, I need to have another image there. That could be a larger version of the image if I want, but it might slow down my page. I can add a number of advanced attributes. The style is added from my image CSS that I give it here. If I want to have a particular class or change it to a particular class list, I can do that as well. For instance, if your template has a great way of inserting inset boxes and has a class for that, I can call that class here and it would automatically format it the way my template is designed. But for now, let's just insert that image, and you'll notice that I have a image in my article with a 1 pixel solid border, 10 pixels around, and in this image actually there is a slight white border around the entire image, and that's why the border is not flush to the picture itself. From here I can resize it, but again, if I resize it, I'm not actually changing the file size. So this doesn't work on large pictures, but on a picture like this that's just merely, I think, 16K, this is not a big deal. I can make it as big as I want. Again, the problem here is if I make it too big, it will be pixelated. So the idea of having your images ready to go before you upload them to your site is really important. Alright, so I'm in my article, I've got an image, and I don't really like where it is. I can just highlight the image by clicking on it and go back to my Edit Image button, and all of the things that I've set up for it are already loaded back for me. Let's say I don't like the border anymore. I can just turn that off, click Update, and now there's no border. The Image Manager allows me to edit certain parameters about how the image is set. Again, I can change it to left justified, top, middle, anywhere I want. There's some other things I can do here as well. I can actually delete the file, copy the file, cut the file, view the file. If I do that, it just gives me a little pop-up window. and insert the file, which is basically the same as doing the update in this case. So, inserting images and updating images, not too bad. Let's say, for instance, I wanted, that's not the right position I want. I want it down where I have this anchor. I can click and drag it down to the beginning of this line, and it will now be aligned with this paragraph. Try and get your images where you want them the first time, because this can get tricky, and frankly, I've seen a lot of people mess up their images this way because it sometimes can get a little confusing. If I wanted to make this image into a link, I highlight the image, click my link button. I can make it a link to anywhere I want in the world. Click Save, and now refresh, and the image is now in my article.